Topping us off here at 8 o'clock, there is growing concern about measles here in Michigan. Of course, Michigan, we did report that we've recently had a case pop up. And the most recent one at the end of June when someone was diagnosed with it at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital in Grand Rapids. So to give you the facts and information about the disease and what to watch out for, we're joined by Dr. Paul Kilgore from Wayne State University. He's an expert in infectious diseases, here to break down what you need to know. Doctor, we have had a lot of cases pop up in Michigan. So 17 so far this year in the state, which many people would not think that that's a lot of cases, but in terms of what we know about the disease, it does seem like that could be a lot. So give us the rundown of what the measles situation actively is across the state and if that's a cause for concern.
Well, good morning, everyone, and it's great to be with you. Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. It is a cause for concern, but I don't want to be alarmist really yet. One of the things I think that people should know, and this may be new information for listeners, is that measles is really more than a rash. Actually, it is an immune reset to many people who have never been vaccinated. And what I mean by that is that measles doesn't cause just a temporary illness. What happens actually is that it erases your child's memory, immune memory, for 2 to 3 years. What that means is it makes children vulnerable to diseases they previously were immune to. So they could be at risk for things like encephalitis, pneumonia, meningitis, things that we know are very dangerous to children and even adults. In fact, one of the things that we know is that 2 shots will give lifetime protection for children into adulthood. So that's very important. Realizing right now that about 79% of all kids have been vaccinated for measles in Michigan, that leaves a lot of people vulnerable. And when we have low population immunity, it leads to spread. So that's why we're starting to see pockets of unvaccinated people and diseases related to unvaccinated kids. One concern is that we have seen this movie before. We know that this has happened before. In fact, back in the 1990s, we had over 27,000 cases of measles. We're now running about 1,400 cases. That's the tip of the iceberg. Realize that when they report cases in Michigan and other states, these are confirmed cases of measles, meaning that there probably are other cases out there that have not yet been confirmed. So our concern in these pockets where people are unvaccinated and where you start to see a little case here and there, it can spread very rapidly. In fact, your listeners probably know that measles is the most contagious infectious disease that we have. Extremely active, passing from one person to another. And one of the things I think is important to realize, we're in July right now. It is the perfect time to contact your doctor, your pediatrician, even your local health department. Check your vaccination status. Check your child's vaccination status. Make sure they've had 2 doses of measles vaccine, because that will protect them when they come into school this coming year. And one of the things we're very concerned about is that as school opens up in August into September, we could see a gigantic surge in measles cases.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting you bring up vaccinations. Is that why you think we're seeing these cases kind of pop up across the state here and there?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that we know for a fact is that the vast majority, and here I'm talking about 90% of the cases of measles are occurring in kids that have never been vaccinated. And one of the things everyone should know is that we can protect most kids and adults with measles vaccine. There are some people, though, that cannot get the measles vaccine. Either they've had a transplant, an organ transplant, or they're immunocompromised for some other reason. Those people cannot take the measles vaccine. But we can protect those people around them and provide indirect protection by vaccinating the healthy people around those other vulnerable kids and adults.
Yeah, let me dive into the one case that we just had in Kent County. Of course, again, I mentioned that was at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. This was a case associated with international travel. This is the 2nd case in Kent County since April of this year. Again, the 17th in Michigan so far. So what should people know about this one monitoring site? Again, what is a monitoring site? What are health officials looking for when they have that monitoring site there? And what should people know about that one case?
Well, a couple of things. One is that imported cases are responsible for a number of new cases of measles in the United States and in Michigan. They are relatively few and far between. The vast majority of cases are what I call local cases of unvaccinated kids and adults. One of the concerns is that that's just the tip of the iceberg. When you have a new introduction of the virus in a population, it will start to look for those people that are unvaccinated, and we'll find them very quickly because it spreads so easily. And so anyone who has been in contact with that site should contact the local health department, perhaps even call the hospital. Check in just to make sure that they know that they're vaccinated. Talk with their local doctor and their pediatrician, family doctor. Make sure that their kids are vaccinated with 2 doses of measles vaccine, because that will provide very good protection long term. And know this, the Kent County Health Department is one of the strongest health departments in the entire country. We know they have an incredible track record of control of outbreaks and other diseases. We need that kind of strength throughout Michigan to really provide protection against all Michiganders. In fact, one of the things I think you're going to start to see is much more activity around public health surveillance and control, monitoring for these new cases, because we're really just at the tip of the iceberg, I think. And we're concerned that it's going to spread very rapidly as we start to move into the fall, when kids come into school and people start moving in together as the weather cools.
Yeah, very good points as you make there, especially as we are kind of rounding out the summer. It's hard to believe school's right around the corner in some cases for many schools, so very good points there.
Absolutely, and you mentioned just how fast this spreads. Can you speak a little bit to the transmission rates, how that compares to maybe some of the other diseases that people think of, even just the common cold, things like COVID, just to give people a perspective of what those transmission rates kind of look like?
You bet. There is one statistic that we use in epidemiology. It's called the R naught, R sub-zero. For measles, it's around 15 to 18. Very, very high. It's much higher than influenza, much higher than common cold viruses. Those viruses are transmitting at a rate around 2 to 3. Compare that with the R naught, the spread rate for measles, which is around 18. And you can see it's several magnitudes higher compared with any other virus that we have. In fact, the next one below that is a bacteria we call pertussis that is also causing outbreaks in Michigan and other places. But one thing is for sure, measles vaccine is critical, and the 2 doses are absolutely essential to really stop this spread. And the good news is that the vaccine is very safe. There are some local side effects, fever, local pain at the injection site for a few days. Other than that, kids recover very quickly, and it will protect the overall immune system too. Remember, measles infection can knock out the memory of the immune system for several years. And one of the things we were worried about is that anyone that gets measles infection, the disease, it's not just a rash, it's really a severe blow to the immune system, which we can prevent with 2 doses of the measles vaccine.
Yeah, I want to ask you because, I think some people at home might be hearing, 17 cases just this year in Michigan, not really understanding the significance of that and how rare these cases should be in our day and age, especially with all the modern medicine that we have. If you want 1 or 2 things for the audience at home to hear you when you say this, what would that be, and what would be the most important things for people to take away from this conversation, especially as we move forward?
Number 1, we absolutely can protect kids with 2 doses of measles vaccine. Even though you hear the small number, people should know that our public health surveillance system is not perfect. We may not find every case right away. So the disease can actually be spreading without us actually knowing exactly where it is. There's always a lag. Once we hear of a case, we investigate, and then we go deep dive and figure out who that case was meeting and contacting, realizing those people that were in contact with the case could be vulnerable to measles infection, but they can be protected. 2 doses of measles vaccine. Contact your doctor, your pediatrician, family doctor, public health department locally where you are. Find out if you've had 1 or 2 doses. If you've had only 1 dose, you can get 2 doses, the 2nd dose, today. If you've had no doses, now is a great time to start. And by vaccinating those that are eligible, young kids, for example, you can protect babies And even older adults that may be vulnerable, maybe they didn't have all the measles vaccine doses that they should have. We can protect those people that are very vulnerable. And that's a key message.
Yeah, Doctor, we got about 20 seconds left. If you could run down the symptoms that people should be aware about when this disease starts to present in people, what would you say those symptoms are?
Right. So, a couple things. One, fever. Number two, rash. Number three, general systemic fatigue, feeling bad in general. We call that malaise. Sometimes also runny nose, redness in the eyes can occur, and swollen lymph nodes can occur, in the neck particularly. And these are things that we can look for with the infection. More severe things can also occur, which we hope never happen, but we're always worried when we start to see kids with neurologic signs or symptoms, and that means that the infection has spread perhaps to the central nervous system, the brain. That's when we start to get very concerned. One thing listeners should know is that measles infection does not really have a treatment. We give supportive care. That's one of the reasons why the vaccine is absolutely critical. And we can protect people from these severe effects of the infection with the vaccine. And that's so important today because we know kids are moving around a lot and they're going to be in school soon. So we got to get out and protect them.
Yeah, Dr. Paul Kilgore, we appreciate the conversation, open and honest conversation, and very informative things there. We appreciate your time, and of course, we'll continue to monitor the measles situation across Michigan. Doctor, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.